Hello and welcome to the St. Andrew's Society of Los Angeles podcast. Each episode will bring you the latest news from the St. Andrew's Society of Los Angeles, as well as fascinating interviews with entertainment personalities, government leaders, and community advocates. St. Andrew's Society of Los Angeles, where Scotland meets the City of Angels. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another great episode of the St. Andrew's Society of Los Angeles podcast. We have a great show lined up for you today. We are joined by the president of the St. Andrew's Society of Los Angeles, Miss Kimberly Bradford.
Hello.
Hey. And our guest today is multi-award winning fashion designer, Miss Siobhan Mackenzie.
Yay!
Siobhan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we have got a ton of really interesting questions that our listeners want to know about. So Kimberly, without further ado.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, Siobhan. It's so good to have you on. And thank you so much. The St. Andrew's Society, we're celebrating our 90th year anniversary. And so our service to the Scottish community here in LA, this is what we do. We love promoting Scottish culture and businesses. And we've been wanting to reach you for so long. So thank you for coming. It brings me to my first question, which is, were you influenced by any major designers of the day when you first began sewing and designing?
Yes, I would say Vivienne Westwood, but not because of the tartan. So I first decided I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was 10, and I started learning about different designers in my art classes in school, and I was more inspired by her bravery to step outside of the lines and break rules and just take risks in design. And because I believe when she started, she had quite a bit of backlash against her avant-garde designs. And I think you need to do that as a designer. You need to be prepared to take risks, and you need to be prepared to do something that people haven't done before. And I believe that that's what she did. So she really inspired me from that aspect. And obviously at that time, I had no idea I would end up going into working with tartan.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fantastic. So what an amazing designer Vivienne Westwood is as well. You are now a legend for reinventing the kilt. No other designer has taken the kilt to the level that you have. And at 10 years old, your vision of your destiny was clearly defined. And I think that it's also remarkable that at that age, you knew what you wanted. So who was your biggest influence in your fashion career, would you say?
I would say my great-grandmother. So taking it back to my brand, being really inspired by my roots and my family. My great-grandmother was a professional seamstress, and her father had been a tailor. And when I was younger, she would take a really plain sweater, and I would watch her sew the most magnificent beaded sequin patterns onto it. And I would really sit in awe. I just thought they were amazing. And so she would give me bags of sequins to take home, and I would stick them to my drawings of clothes. And she was really an inspiration for me. So,
wow, thank you for sharing that too. I love hearing about, the families of people that we interview, and it makes us kind of feel a little bit closer. You are a Mackenzie, and you're from a very famous clan with deep roots and heritage. How has growing up in the Highlands inspired your designs? And for those that don't know, you grew up on the Black Isle in the Highlands of Scotland.
Yes, that's right. I'm actually in the Black Isle right now. So it's a lovely place to be. And growing up, you have the beach on your doorstep, the most beautiful scenery. It's a really great space to be a creative person, and having a huge family around me. My dad is one of 10, so we really are the clan Mackenzie. So the family influence is really, really strong in my life, and I think that comes through with everything I do. That when I started doing what I do, it was through my degree in our final year, we got to choose for the first time our design briefs, and I wanted to make it personal, which is why I looked into the clan Mackenzie and why I started developing the kilts. So it's been very close to home from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So you were named Best Scottish Designer in 2016 by the Scottish Variety Awards, and you've been featured in Forbes, Elle, WWD, Harper's Bazaar, and many other publications. What has been your biggest thrill for you as a designer?
There's so many. There's so many moments I look back on and I feel really proud of. But I think designing for Team Scotland for the Commonwealth Games, I went over to Australia, and Scotland were the first country into the stadium. And so that was a real honour. There was an audience, I think, worldwide watching of 1.5 billion. So there's a lot of pressure to get that design right because we were first out. But to actually be there and see the team come out, it was really surreal, and it was a really kind of goosebump moment for me. And I felt, oh, I did that. So I think for me has been the proudest moment so far.
That's amazing. And to be able to see your design first that's got to be one of the most breathtaking things, because I know as a person who watches things like that, like the Olympics and the British Games and stuff, I'm always fascinated by how all of the designs look. But let's talk about the creative process for a second. And what is usually your creative process when you start designing a new collection?
When I start designing a new collection, if it's a seasonal collection, I'll first of all take into consideration whether it's spring, summer, autumn, winter. I heavily use Scottish wool, but there are different weights of that. So we can use lightweight wools for spring, summer. I've also used linen, denims. I like to experiment with lots of different materials. And what's really lovely for spring, summer actually is silks. Silk kilts are beautiful. So I really like to experiment with different materials. So first of all, understand the season. Second of all, I would kind of choose a colour palette and just start developing ideas from there. And I like to contrast, say, block materials with tartans, or so I will source lots of materials that are going to work together, either creating whatever I want to go for, if it's going to be a bold contrast, a subtle contrast. And I use a CAD software, a French one called Lectra, and I used that as a student, and I actually won an award from them when I was a student, and I won my own licenses in this CAD software, which was super beneficial to starting my business, as it means I can illustrate my designs. I actually scan my materials into the software, and it gives a super realistic render of it, and I can change the colorways in the click of a button. So it's amazing for designing because you can get all of what's inside your head out in front of you, and it helps you to see that all visually in front of you and think. Then for me, I look at what's the standout piece, and that's the one I'll take forward into the collection. So you end up designing hundreds of pieces, but only the standout pieces are going to make it into the final collection. And for my bespoke orders, that sort of CAD software comes in super handy because I can illustrate my ideas to the client and I can email it to them on the other side of the world. So it's brilliant to have that technology there.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
That is amazing to hear that process. You've shown at Paris Fashion Week. Your work has become recognizable here in America in stores like Bergdorf Goodman, with your pieces next to Gucci, Prada, Jimmy Choo, Dolce & Gabbana, Dior, Givenchy, etc. Where do you see your creations evolving to?
So I would like to evolve the brand into lots of different products, full product ranges, always inspired by Scotland and always made in Scotland. So the reason I slowly grow my product range is that I want to keep the authenticity of it being made in Scotland and nurturing those skill sets that are here. So as I grow, I would like to have my own atelier spaces and things in Glasgow, and actually just keep everything really authentic and local. And I think that's really what makes my brand work, is the authenticity of it and of me. And so keeping true to my roots and what I started with the ethos is super important for me. So yeah, I'd like to also sort of merge technology into retail as well. It's just all these things come at quite a large cost. So I think essentially I would maybe like at this point an investor to come in and help me take it up a level, because I've got lots of ideas for scaling the brand. But I started it 5 days after I graduated. So I started it myself with zero investment, and it's run off sales ever since. So I think we're probably at the stage now to really scale up. We'll be looking at taking some investment into the company.
Uh-huh.
Wow. So can we talk a little bit about seasonal designs, and tell me a little bit more about this season's designs, if you would, and if you can share some details, and the difference between designing for men versus designing for women?
So right now, I'm actually operating on more of a customized basis. So you can view my work on Instagram or my website, and if you pick your favorite style, for example, and pick what colors you would like it in, I can then do designs in those colors and tartans and process orders that way. So it's just given a bit more of a customized element, which I found there was a bigger demand for. Besides from that, I'm also going to be taking out a sustainable collection made up of leftover materials, and actually really focusing on that, as my dad was an environment officer for 30 years, so I grew up in that mindset of being very conscious of my environmental footprint. And fashion, unfortunately, is the second biggest polluter in the world. So when I'm using these beautiful Scottish textiles, they're a craft, and I would hate to throw leftovers away, because it's not only going in a landfill, but it actually is such a waste of skill and talent that's gone into making that. So that's my plan to do that. That was supposed to be COVID, but obviously things have been a little bit delayed, but that's what I'm going to do.
Well, you've designed the Team Scotland uniforms for the Commonwealth Games of 2018. You've designed the Miss Scotland outfit for the Miss World pageant, as well as designed for the New York charity fashion event Dressed to Kilt, and many celebrities on top of that. Even designed your own tartans, I hear, and have collaborated also with Karun Jin, which is also from the Highlands. So it seems like a nice collaboration there. Are you done with everything? It doesn't seem like you are, although you've done so much. So what is in your future? We would love to know. Can you please tell us?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very ambitious. I've been in business just 6 years last week, actually. So thank you. Like I say, I started it 5 days after graduating when I was only 21. So I feel there's a long, long way to go to get to where I want to be with it. I would love my own stores and to grow my my retailers on par with Bergdorf Goodman, retailers of that sort of collabora. So I would like to grow that side of it, and just really grow the brand. But like I say, I think doing it slowly and steadily is much more important than trying to do it too quickly and make a mess of it. So I think, just taking my time and getting it right as well, and just doing it the way I want to do it.
Fantastic. Well, this is kind of a side question, but I know that you've worn the Isle of Skye tartan, which is one of my favorite all-time tartans. I'm sure everybody that sees it loves it. I'm curious what your favorite tartan is.
I think I have to have two. So my favorite color is black, and being from the Black Isle tartan is one of my favorites. It's super, super subtle. It's a black tartan, and initially can just look like a black material, but as the light hits it, you see the different tones of black through it. So for me, it's a super beautiful tartan to wear if you just want to wear something a bit more subtle. But if I was wearing something more colourful, it would be the Wallace, which is a lovely red with blacks and yellows. And that one for me, actually, I do with a dark navy kilt, and it's got a diagonal panel of Wallace down the back, and that's actually my women's wear best seller. As it's such a great piece that can be worn professionally for work with some heels and a blouse, and then you could also wear it casually with a cashmere sweater or boots, and it's super versatile, and I love it.
Just have to run and you want to go out somewhere, whether it's day or night. What is kind of your go-to outfit that you just throw on?
So yeah, I would probably put on the kilt I just described, quite a dark one with a splash of colour in it, some black tights, some heeled ankle boots, and if it's warm, I would maybe wear a black bodysuit, or if it's a bit colder, maybe a high neck sort of cashmere sweater styled with it.
Okay, fantastic. So as far as masks go, are you making any tartan masks of your own? I know you're doing other items as well. If you could talk about that for a quick second.
Sure. I made the decision not to make the tartan masks. Obviously, I have lots of surplus material that I could have made this out of. However, anything I put my name to, I want to have product tested. And with something so severe, such as a pandemic, I would have wanted to have medical grade materials and make sure it's proper PPE and has the right filter, and put it through product trials where I know that the use of them is actually helping and preventing the spread of germs. For me, personally, I don't want to profiteer out of a global pandemic, and that's the only reason I feel for me it's not been right to do it. However, if I had maybe some more experience in medical materials and things, then I would feel a bit more comfortable to do that. But however, when I'm putting my name to it, I wouldn't want to be seen to be sort of jumping on a bandwagon. Sure, yeah. So I've had lots of demands for tartan scarves over the years. However, I don't do things in the normal way. So I kind of, my signature style of design with some illustration mixed with tartan onto some silk scarves. They're going to be coming out soon as well. So that'll be nice to have some new products to come out after COVID's been quite a hard time on business with not much happening. So it'll be nice to get some sort of normality and some products coming out.
So a question for you, especially regarding COVID and kind of adapting, how has business gone for you since COVID has started?
So we had to shut down production on March the 23rd. So we had customers' orders that were halfway through. There was just nothing we could do because that was the government guidelines. So we've only just really opened up in the last couple of weeks. So it's all kind of figuring out whether turnaround times and things are now affected because you can't really work at the same capacity, and just trying to be really careful. And even for myself, if I'm meeting clients to measure, just making sure there's the right measures in place. It's we need to get back on the road somehow. It's been a long stretch of not being able to make any sales and not have any business. So we need to get the economy going and getting somehow. But it's just about doing it in the right manner and just being really sensible and careful with it.
So Siobhan, thanks again so much for taking the time, and thank you, Kimberly, for being our guest moderator for the day. Siobhan, is there a website that people can go to find new information about you, to place orders, to see what other projects you've got going on?
Sure. My website is www.siobhanmackenzie.com, and my Instagram is Siobhan Mackenzie Kilts, and I think that's probably the best visual tool to see the depth of work that I can do and all the lots of different styles that are available. But like I say, out with what you see on there, you can have everything customized. So if you like one style but you would like it in your own tartan, in your own colours, that's absolutely not a problem. We can accommodate that. So.
Oh, I wanted to make one comment. I saw one of your photo shoots where you had these great kilts, because I know you do both male and female, and these men that had the kilts on, they also had stags in the photo shoot. That was an amazing thing to see. When was that done?
So that was before I even started my business. Like I say, I did the contemporary kilts as a development in my graduate collection as a student, and that was simply photographing my student work. But I still love those images as well. They're so iconic, I think, to my brand, and they were super fun to do. And the finished product came out really, really well. I think the emphasis is on the kilts and how different the kilts are. So I still love those images 6 years later.
Yeah, men in kilts. I don't know what it is, but it drives us wild. So.
Yes, I have a really hard job sometimes.
Well, the St. Andrews Society is happy to do this podcast with you. Our website is www.standrewsla.org. And if you could repeat your websites and Instagram once again for us, Siobhan.
Sure. It's www.siobhanmackenzie.com, and the Instagram is at Siobhan Mackenzie Kilts.
Fantastic. Again, thank you both so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. And we will be back next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you, Joe. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the St. Andrews Society of Los Angeles podcast. For more information on the St. Andrews Society of Los Angeles, visit www.standrewsla.org. And don't forget to like our Facebook page, Instagram, and YouTube channels as well. Have a great week, and we'll see you next episode.